The blood was spreading across the white marble floor faster than Keisha could process what she was seeing. The man who'd stumbled through the penthouse door was collapsing against the wall, his expensive suit soaked crimson, his hand pressed against his side where red seeped between his fingers. "Please," he gasped in accented English, his eyes finding hers. "Help me." Keisha dropped her cleaning supplies and ran to him, her heart hammering. She'd been a maid at the luxury high-rise for 3 years, cleaning empty apartments while their wealthy owners traveled the world. This penthouse was supposed to be vacant. She wasn't supposed to be here when anyone came home. "Oh my God," Keisha breathed, catching him as his knees buckled. He was heavy, solid muscle beneath the designer suit, and she struggled to lower him to the floor without dropping him. "What happened? Who did this to you?" "Doesn't matter," the man said through gritted teeth. His face was pale, sweat beading on his forehead. "Can't go to hospital. They'll find me. Finish the job. You need a doctor. You're bleeding out. No hospitals." His hand gripped her wrist with surprising strength. "Please. I'll pay you. Whatever you want. Just help me stop the bleeding." Keisha's mind raced. She should call 911. She should run. But something in the man's eyes stopped her, not just pain and fear, but a desperate trust that she couldn't betray. "Okay," she said, making a decision that would change everything. "Okay. Stay with me. What's your name?" "Tae-min," he managed. "Park Tae-min. I'm Keisha. Keisha Washington. And I'm going to help you, but you need to stay conscious, you hear me?" She ran to the kitchen, grabbing dish towels, finding the first aid kit she knew was in every unit. Her hands shook as she returned to Tae-min, who was now lying flat on the floor, his breathing shallow. "I need to see the wound," Keisha said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Can you move your hand?" Tae-min's hand fell away, and Keisha gasped. The knife wound was deep, just below his ribs on his left side. Blood pulsed with each heartbeat. "This is bad," she whispered. "This is really bad." "I know." Tae-min's voice was fading. "Do what you can." Keisha had been a nursing student before her mother got sick, before she'd had to drop out to work full-time to pay the medical bills. She'd only completed 1 year, but right now, that 1 year was all that stood between this man and death. She packed the wound with clean towels, applying pressure with all her strength. Tae-min groaned but didn't cry out. "You're strong," she told him, trying to keep him focused. "That's good. You need to stay strong for me." "Who are you?" Tae-min asked, his words slurring. "Why are you here?" "I cleaned this building. This penthouse was supposed to be empty for another week. My trip was cut short." A bitter laugh that turned into a cough. "Obviously. Don't talk. Save your strength." She maintained pressure for what felt like hours but was probably only 10 minutes. Slowly, impossibly, the bleeding began to slow. "I need to clean this wound and close it somehow," Keisha said. "This is going to hurt." "Already hurts," Tae-min replied, but there was a ghost of a smile on his lips. "Do it." Keisha worked with shaking hands, cleaning the wound as best she could with antiseptic from the first aid kit. Then she did something she'd only practiced on medical dummies in school. She used butterfly bandages and surgical strips to pull the edges of the wound together, creating a makeshift closure that would have to hold until proper medical attention could be arranged. "You've done this before," Tae-min observed, his eyes clearer now, focused on her face. "Nursing school. First year only. I had to drop out." "Why?" "My mama got cancer. Needed someone to work, pay the bills, take care of her." Keisha secured the last bandage. "She passed 2 years ago." "I'm sorry," Tae-min said, and the sincerity in his voice made her look up. That must have been very difficult. Life is difficult, Keisha replied. You survive anyway. She helped him move to the couch, a monumental effort that left them both exhausted. Once he was settled, Keisha cleaned up the blood from the marble floor, her mind still reeling from what had just happened. You should rest, she told him. But if you start feeling worse, if you develop a fever or the bleeding starts again, I'll call you, Tae-min said. Give me your number. Mr. Park, I don't think. You saved my life. His eyes held hers. The least you can do is let me thank you properly later. Against her better judgment, Keisha gave him her number. Then she finished her work in record time and left, her hands still trembling, her uniform still spotted with his blood. The next day, Keisha returned to the penthouse, her heart in her throat. She'd barely slept, terrified she'd find Tae-min dead, terrified the police would be waiting to question her about the blood she'd cleaned up. Instead, she found Tae-min sitting up on the couch, looking pale but alive. Another man was with him, speaking in rapid Korean, and 2 more men stood by the door. Keisha froze. I can come back later. No, Tae-min waved her in, switching to English. Come in, Keisha. These are my associates. They were just leaving. The other men studied her with expressions ranging from curiosity to suspicion. The one who'd been talking to Tae-min said something in Korean that sounded like a question. She saved my life, Tae-min replied in English, clearly for Keisha's benefit. She's under my protection now. Make sure everyone knows. The men bowed slightly and left. Keisha stood awkwardly by the door, clutching her cleaning supplies. You came back, Tae-min said, a note of surprise in his voice. I had to check on you. Make sure the wound wasn't infected. Keisha set down her supplies and approached cautiously. Can I see? Tae-min lifted his shirt, revealing the bandages she'd applied. Keisha carefully peeled them back, relieved to see the wound was closed and showed no signs of infection. It's healing well, she said. But you really should see a doctor. I have. One who doesn't ask questions. Tae-min's eyes followed her as she re-bandaged the wound. He was impressed with your work. Said you probably saved my life with your quick response. I did what anyone would do. No, Tae-min's voice was firm. Most people would have run. Called the police. Left me to die. You didn't. You asked for help, Keisha said simply. How could I not help? I want to repay you. You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything. Tae-min caught her hand as she finished with the bandage. In my culture, a life debt is sacred. You saved me, Keisha Washington. That means something. Over the next 2 weeks, Keisha found herself returning to the penthouse every day, ostensibly to check Tae-min's wound, but really because he asked her to. They talked during these visits, about everything and nothing. He told her about growing up in Seoul, about coming to America at 18, about building a business from nothing. He never told her what that business was, and Keisha didn't ask. But she noticed things. The men who came and went, always respectful but clearly dangerous. The phones that rang at odd hours. The tension that never quite left Tae-min's shoulders. You're involved in something illegal, Keisha said one afternoon, the words coming out before she could stop them. Tae-min didn't deny it. Yes. Something dangerous. Very dangerous. Is that how you got stabbed? A business disagreement that turned violent. Tae-min met her eyes. Does it matter? Does it change what you did? Keisha thought about it. No. You were hurt and needed help. That doesn't change based on what you do for a living. Even if what I do is illegal? Even then. I'm not a judge. I'm just someone who couldn't walk away from a person in pain. Something shifted in Tae-min's expression. You are remarkable, Keisha Washington. I don't think you realize how rare you are. 3 weeks after the stabbing, Tae-min was nearly healed. Keisha had continued to visit daily, and their conversations had deepened. She'd learned he loved classical music and couldn't cook to save his life. He'd learned she wanted to go back to nursing school someday and that she sang in her church choir. I want to help you, Tae-min said one evening. With nursing school. I can pay for it. All of it. No, Keisha said immediately. I can't accept that. Why not? Because I didn't save you for money. I saved you because it was the right thing to do. I know that. But I still want to help. Please, let me do this. Mr. Park. Tae-min. Please, call me Tae-min. Tae-min. Keisha took a breath. I appreciate the offer. Really, I do. But I need to do this myself. When I go back to school, it has to be because I earned it. Tae-min studied her for a long moment. You are proud. I'm practical. Taking money from someone like you, someone involved in dangerous things, that's a complication I don't need. Someone like me, Tae-min repeated softly. Do you know what I am, Keisha? I can guess. The expensive apartment, the bodyguards, the secretive phone calls. You're involved in organized crime. Korean Mafia, probably. And that doesn't frighten you? It should, Keisha admitted. But for some reason, it doesn't. You've never been anything but kind to me. Respectful. You make me feel safe, even though logically I probably shouldn't. You are safe, Tae-min said with absolute conviction. I would never let anyone hurt you. You saved my life, Keisha. That means you are under my protection, whether you want it or not. The next day, everything changed. Keisha arrived at the penthouse to find the door ajar. Her heart immediately started racing. Something was wrong. She pushed the door open slowly. Tae-min. The apartment was in chaos. Furniture overturned, glass shattered, and Tae-min was on his knees in the center of the room, his hands bound behind his back, 3 men surrounding him. One of the men held a gun to Tae-min's head. Keisha's scream came out as a gasp. What are you doing? The man with the gun turned to her, his expression cold. Who are you? I'm the maid, Keisha said quickly, her mind racing. I cleaned this apartment. I didn't know anyone would be here. Leave, the man commanded. But Keisha's eyes met Tae-min's, and she saw something there that made her stay. A plea. A warning. A message she couldn't quite read. I said leave, the man shouted, raising the gun toward her. Wait, another man said, grabbing his companion's arm. Look at her uniform. She works for the building. If we let her go, she'll report this. Then we kill her too. Keisha's blood turned to ice, but she forced herself to stay calm. I won't report anything. I didn't see anything. Please, just let me go. Tae-min spoke for the first time, his voice steady despite his position. She's nobody. Just a maid who happened to walk in at the wrong time. Let her leave. She's not part of this. She's part of it now, the gunman said. Tie her up with him. They forced Keisha to her knees beside Tae-min, binding her hands with zip ties that cut into her wrists. The men resumed their conversation in Korean, clearly debating what to do next. I'm sorry, Tae-min whispered to Keisha. You shouldn't be here. This is my fault. What's happening? Keisha whispered back. Rival organization. They found out I've been recovering here. came to finish what they started. Are they going to kill us? They're going to kill me. I'm not sure about. Not acceptable, Keisha hissed. Neither of us is dying today. Keisha, there's nothing we can. But Keisha wasn't listening. She was looking at the broken vase on the floor, the sharp ceramic shards within reach if she could just shift her position slightly. The men were still arguing in Korean, their attention on Tae-min. Keisha carefully maneuvered closer to the broken vase, her fingers stretching for a sharp piece. What are you doing? Tae-min whispered urgently. Saving your life again, Keisha replied. Seems to be becoming a habit. She managed to grasp a shard, ignoring the way it cut into her palm. Working by feel, she began sawing at the zip tie binding her wrists, the motion hidden behind her back. One of the men noticed her moving and barked something in Korean. He strode toward her, and Keisha's heart hammered. But then his phone rang. He answered it, his expression changing, and suddenly all three men were talking urgently. Keisha kept working at the zip tie. It was cutting through, slowly but surely. Her hands were slick with blood, but she didn't stop. The zip tie suddenly gave way. Keisha's hands were free, but she kept them behind her back, waiting for the right moment. The men finished their phone call and turned back to Tae-min. The leader raised his gun, clearly done with waiting. Any last words? He asked in accented English. Yes, Keisha said loudly. These ones. She lunged forward, throwing the ceramic shard at the gunman's face. He jerked back in surprise, and in that moment of distraction, Tae-min moved with a speed that seemed impossible for an injured man. He surged to his feet, his bound hands swinging around to catch the gunman's wrist. Chaos erupted. The gun went off, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. The other two men rushed forward, but suddenly the penthouse door burst open and Tae-min's men flooded in, weapons drawn. The fight was brief and brutal. When it ended, the three attackers were subdued, and Tae-min's men were securing the apartment. Tae-min immediately went to Keisha, who was sitting on the floor, shaking with adrenaline. Are you hurt? My hands, Keisha said, looking at her bleeding palms. But I'm okay. Are you okay? You're wound. Is fine. Tae-min pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. You are insane. Completely insane. You could have been killed. So could you, Keisha replied, her face pressed against his chest. I told you, neither of us was dying today. Tae-min pulled back to look at her, his hands cupping her face. You saved my life. Again. Technically, I just created a distraction. You saved my life, Tae-min repeated. Twice now. Do you understand what that means? In my world, in my culture. It means you owe me? Keisha attempted a weak joke. It means you are mine to protect, mine to care for, mine to cherish. Tae-min's eyes were intense. Whether you want it or not. One of Tae-min's men approached, speaking rapidly in Korean. Tae-min replied tersely, then switched to English. We need to get you somewhere safe. Somewhere they can't find you. I have a job, an apartment, a life, all of which will be waiting for you. But right now, you are in danger because of your association with me. I will not risk your safety. And if I refuse? Tae-min smiled slightly. Then I will follow you everywhere to ensure no harm comes to you. I am very stubborn, Keisha. I've noticed. Tae-min's men took them to a safe house in the hills above Los Angeles. It was smaller than the penthouse, but just as luxurious, with a view of the city that took Keisha's breath away. A doctor was called to treat both of them. Keisha's hands required stitches where the ceramic had cut deep, and Tae-min's stab wound had reopened slightly during the fight. "You should be resting," Keisha scolded as the doctor left. "Not fighting armed men." "I should be dead," Tae-min corrected. "Twice over. But I'm not because of you." They sat together on the couch, both bandaged, both exhausted. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars. "I need to tell you something," Tae-min said quietly. "About who I really am." "I know who you are. You told me. Park Tae-min. That's my name. But not who I am." Tae-min took a breath. "I am the head of the Baekdu organization, one of the largest Korean crime syndicates in North America. I oversee operations in 6 cities, manage territory disputes, and yes, sometimes people try to kill me." Keisha absorbed this information. Okay. That's all you have to say. What do you want me to say? That I'm shocked? I already knew you were involved in organized crime. The specifics don't really change anything. They should. I'm a dangerous man, Keisha. People die because of the decisions I make. And yet you asked for help instead of letting yourself die. You showed me kindness. You've protected me. Keisha met his eyes. I judge people by how they treat me and others, not by their job description. Even when the job description involves illegal activities and violence. Even then. You're not a monster, Tae-min. You're a man in a complicated situation, trying to do what he thinks is right. Tae-min was quiet for a long moment. I don't deserve you. Probably not, Keisha agreed with a small smile. But you're stuck with me anyway. Apparently, I can't stop saving your life. I want you in my life, Tae-min said suddenly. Not as someone I'm protecting out of obligation, but as someone I choose to be with. Someone I want to be with. Keisha's heart skipped. Tae-min. I know it's fast. I know the circumstances are unusual. But I've never met anyone like you, Keisha Washington. You're brave and kind and stubborn and absolutely fearless. You see me, the real me, and you don't run. You stay. You help. You save me, over and over again. You're vulnerable right now, Keisha said carefully. You've been through trauma. This might just be. It's not trauma bonding or gratitude or confusion, Tae-min interrupted. It's real. I know because I've never felt this way about anyone before. Keisha looked at this man who was a crime boss, a stabbing victim, someone who'd shown her more respect and care in 3 weeks than most people had in her entire life. She thought about her mother, who'd always told her to follow her heart even when her head said it was crazy. This is insane, Keisha said. You know that, right? I'm a maid who dropped out of nursing school. You're a mafia boss. This is not a normal situation. Nothing about us has been normal from the start, Tae-min replied. Why start now? Fair point. Keisha took a breath. Okay. But we do this slow. And you have to promise me something. Anything. You let me go back to nursing school. Not because you pay for it, but because you support it. I need my own life, my own career. I won't be anyone's kept woman, not even yours. Deal, Tae-min said immediately. Though I reserve the right to help in ways you won't notice. Sneaky. I learned from the best. He touched her face gently. From you. Over the next 6 months, Keisha's life transformed. She returned to nursing school, funding it through a scholarship that Tae-min swore he had nothing to do with but absolutely did. She moved into her own apartment, much nicer than her previous one, and continued working part-time while studying. And she dated Tae-min. Carefully, slowly, navigating the complexities of loving a man whose world was so different from her own. He kept his business separate from their relationship, never exposing her to unnecessary danger. But he was honest about what he did, and Keisha appreciated that more than she could say. His men respected her, calling her boss lady when she visited. Tae-min's rivals learned quickly that harming her would bring swift and terrible retribution. And gradually, Keisha carved out a place for herself in Tae-min's world without losing herself in the process. One evening, a year after she'd found him bleeding on the marble floor, Tae-min took her to a fancy restaurant overlooking the ocean. They ate and talked and laughed, and at the end of the meal, he took her hand. "I want to ask you something," he said. "Okay." "That day, when you found me dying in my apartment, you had every reason to run, to call the police, to let me bleed out. But you didn't. Why?" Keisha thought about it. "Because you asked for help. Because you were human and in pain, and I couldn't turn away from that. Because helping people is who I am. And now, knowing everything you know about me, about my life, would you make the same choice?" "Every single time," Keisha said without hesitation. Tae-min smiled, and it transformed his usually serious face. "Good. Because I need you to make one more choice." He pulled out a small box. Inside was a ring, not huge or ostentatious, but perfect. Simple, elegant, beautiful. "I'm not an easy man to love," Tae-min said. "My life is complicated and dangerous. But I will spend every day trying to be worthy of you. Will you marry me, Keisha Washington? Will you let me spend my life trying to deserve the woman who saved me in every possible way?" Keisha looked at the ring, at the man holding it, at the future stretching before them. It would be complicated. It would be challenging. It would require compromises and courage and faith. But then again, that's what their relationship had been from the start. "Yes," Keisha said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, I'll marry you." Because sometimes, saving someone's life was just the beginning. Sometimes it was the start of saving each other over and over again, in all the ways that mattered most. If this incredible love story moved you, hit that subscribe button right now. We bring you powerful, emotional stories like this every single week that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Drop a comment below telling us what you thought. Would you have helped Tae-min? Could you fall in love with someone from a completely different world? And don't forget to smash that like button if Keisha's bravery and compassion inspired you. Your support means everything and helps us create more amazing content. Subscribe, comment, like, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it today. See you in the next one.